One day, in a small town, a well-known philosophy professor visited a primary school. He was famous for his unique way of teaching. On this special day, he walked into the classroom carrying a large, empty glass jar. His eyes sparkled with excitement, making the students curious about what he was about to do. It was clear that this was not going to be an ordinary lesson. Without saying a word, he placed the jar on the table. Then, from under the table, he took out a pile of big rocks, each about the size of a fist. One by one, he carefully placed the rocks into the jar until no more could fit. Turning to the class, he asked, "Is this jar full?" The students looked at the jar and saw that there was no space for more rocks. Confidently, they answered, "Yes." The professor smiled and pulled out a bag of small pebbles. He poured them into the jar and shook it slightly. The pebbles rolled into the spaces between the big rocks. Again, he asked, "Is the jar full now?" Some students hesitated, but most of them still said, "Yes, now it's full." Next, the professor took out a bag of sand and poured it into the jar. The tiny grains of sand filled all the gaps left by the rocks and pebbles. He asked again, "Is the jar full now?" This time, the students understood the trick. They smiled and answered, "Probably not." Finally, the professor took a jug of water and poured it into the jar. The water soaked into the sand and filled up the last remaining spaces. Only then did the professor nod and say, "Now the jar is truly full." The students watched in amazement as he explained the meaning behind this experiment. "This jar represents your life," he said. "The big rocks are the most important things. Your family, your health, your dreams. Even if you lost everything else, your life would still be meaningful if you had these. The pebbles are the things that matter, but they are not as important. Your job, your house, your car. The sand represents the small stuff, the little worries and daily tasks. If you fill your jar with sand and pebbles first, there will be no space for the big rocks." He paused and looked at the students. "The same goes for life. If you focus too much on the small things, you will never have room for what truly matters. You must always make time for your family, your health, and your dreams first. These are your foundation. The rest is just extra." A thoughtful student then raised her hand and asked, "What about the water? What does that represent?" The professor smiled and said, "Good question. The water represents the little joys in life, having coffee with a friend, sharing a laugh, enjoying the moment. No matter how busy life gets, there's always room for a little joy and connection." He continued, "We often find ourselves overwhelmed with tasks, constantly running after deadlines and juggling responsibilities. We forget to cherish the moments that make life meaningful. This jar, just like our lives, has only so much space. If we allow the sand and pebbles, the mundane tasks and daily stress, to take over, we will have no room left for the things that truly matter." The class sat in silence, deeply absorbing the lesson. The professor then spoke with a warm and serious tone. "Prioritize your big rocks first. Make time for your loved ones. Nurture your health. Follow your passions and live with purpose. If you let the small things dictate your time, you may reach the end of your journey only to realize that you never made space for what truly matters." The students nodded in understanding, some reflecting on their own lives. Just as the professor was about to leave, another student raised his hand and asked, "Professor, what if we still feel overwhelmed? What if we don't know which are our big rocks?" The professor smiled. "That is a journey of self-discovery. The key is to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, what are the things that, if taken away, would leave you feeling empty? Those are your big rocks. Pay attention to what truly brings you happiness and fulfillment. Everything else is just sand and pebbles." He looked around the room, letting his final words sink in. Remember, it's not about having a full jar. It's about having a jar filled with what truly matters. With that, he packed up his things and left, leaving the students with a powerful lesson they would remember forever. Take this lesson to heart. Prioritize what truly matters, and make every moment count. Thank you for watching. Until next time, remember to focus on your big rocks and make every moment count. Subscribe today to evolve with us.